Jennifer and Tiffany, instructional coaches in Moffat County School District. You're listening to Pivot, Inspire, Elevate. This podcast is dedicated to helping you pivot instruction, inspire others, and elevate learners at all levels. We believe you should never stop growing, never stop learning, never stop sharing.
It's recording. I was waiting for it to
I
say
was-
recording
I
in
was- I
progress.
was waiting for that as well.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome to episode 2. Oh boy. So today we are still going to work in that category of context, and we are going to talk about the design area of implementing rules and procedures. And two elements within that. We're going to talk about establishing rules and procedures, which sounds just like the design area, implementing rules and
Yes.
procedures. But to implement, you have to first establish them. And then we're going to talk about element 35, demonstrating withitness. Jen's got it. She'll tell you about
Withitness.
that. All right. So establishing rules and procedures. First of all, we have to figure out what is the difference between a rule and a procedure. Do you know?
I don't know.
She's lying. She just wants me to say it. So when we think about rules, rules and procedures are both, let me back up, are both part of that safe and supportive culture, right? Kids want boundaries. We think they don't because they're always testing them, but they really do. That makes them feel safe. So having those is extremely important to make them feel safe, calm them down, calming the natives. So a rule, or some people use the word expectation.
Mhm.
It's the I'm big on connotation. I don't care if you use the word rule or expectation, but to different people, rule sounds a little more like you're putting this on me, and an expectation is this is how we will operate. It's just, that's the connotation. And then a procedure is the how-to. How can we be efficient with our work? The rule is this is how we're going to behave in here. Sometimes it's cloudy, but really that's how I think about it, is this is how we'll do the work. And this is how to be efficient with stuff. That wasn't very clear, was it?
It was clear.
Okay,
I think
thank
you're
you.
more clear than you're
Okay.
thinking.
So when we think about it, we think about, I'm looking at our notes over here and I'm going, I don't want to talk about that. There was a study that John Hopkins did, and they talked about 7 characteristics that talked about student discipline and solving those problems. And of those 7, 4 of them really were around setting rules and procedures. So that's just really what I wanted to say, is there's always a study done about everything, right? So I'm going to go past that. Okay.
So rules or expectations?
Yeah.
Same
Use,
same word.
it's however you want to use the vocabulary. And then procedure is something different. So procedure, show them how. So a rule might be kind. In our classroom, we're kind. A procedure is how to do that. So if somebody breaks a pencil, we're going to share it with them. A procedure is, we're not all going to jump up in the room to turn our papers in. We're kind. We're just going to, one person's going to do that, or however you set it up. We're going to talk about some of those. So procedures make us not go crazy. The rules are those, dare I say, and expectations.
Don't say that word. No. Don't
Okay.
say that word.
So I made a game for Jen.
Oh, gosh.
Jen
I'm very
loves
nervous.
games.
I'm extremely nervous.
So, except I made these. So I'm going to give examples, and Jen is going to have to say if it's a rule or if it's a procedure. So this is cake. So if we think about it, this is a rule. Don't walk, right? Rules are broken. Some people go across the street when they don't see the walk sign, right? But they're in danger. It's really around safety. A procedure is how we might do something. So this is flour and butter and how you make a cake. There's not a rule on how to make it, but there's a procedure. Otherwise it won't turn out. I made Jen special sides, and she might show you that later. Okay, ready?
I'm so nervous.
So here's an example. Is this a rule or a procedure, Miss Willems? Being polite and helpful when dealing with others.
Rule.
That might be a rule in your classroom. Okay. How about coming in tardy?
Are you using that as an example? Because I was tardy today. Coming in tardy would be a procedure
Why?
because I have to know what to do if I walk in late.
Yeah. So those are things we don't sometimes think about is when kids walk in late, is your procedure that you're going to say, why are you late? Or is your procedure that they know when they come in, they just sit down, they do that. You have to have a procedure for that. Otherwise it's disruptive.
I thought I was wrong, and that's why you asked me why. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm ready. Never wrong. I asked that. Although we didn't have a procedure this morning.
Hey, I did just fine
Okay,
walking
yes,
in
you
late.
did because you're an adult. Okay, what about walking in the hallways?
Oh, gosh. Well, just the way you worded it, I'm gonna say procedure. Because there's a way to walk in the hallways. You didn't say, walk down the hallway quietly.
See, so you might have a procedure about, well, we do here at Sandra because of our lunchtime. So, you walk on the right side, right? But during our lunch hours, we call it London time. And we have to walk on the other side because of the way the halls and where the lunch is. There is a procedure at lunchtime that we switch sides. So during that hour, they walk on the other side. But the rule is you walk quietly, you walk with purpose, you get where you're going. But okay, so yes, be thinking about those things. What about absent work?
So again,
Yeah.
procedure.
Okay. What about be careful?
Rule. Wait, give me one that I can show him the backside of this card.
Coming in tardy.
Say that again. What was the one?
Coming in tardy.
But that was procedure.
Oh, it is a
So
procedure.
do not come in tardy.
Okay.
We can make it.
What about arrive on time? Arrive on
Okay,
time.
So a rule could be arrive on time. Okay, so I'm gonna say rule, but
I made her a special sign. The rules don't apply
rules
to
don't
Jen.
apply to me.
Okay.
Okay,
What
all
are
right.
some, and I'm not going to read off the list. What are some other really important ones that people don't often think about that we need to think about these first few weeks?
So one procedure that I come across often that we sometimes forget to think about is, okay, so it is time to turn in our assignment. Now, even if this is digital or paper, we don't think about, oh no, like, am I wanting you to turn it in via our learning management system, or am I wanting you to share it with me specifically if we're talking digital? Or if we're talking paper, like, am I gonna have just everybody stand up and go put it in a basket? Like, I need to think about we need a procedure to be efficient.
And I'll tell you, a consistent procedure will make you less crazy.
Yes.
So if kids, every single time you turn in an assignment, they're asking you where and how, it will make you crazy. And then they have the opportunity to get disengaged and get off task and whatever. I've seen it all. I have seen people have kids turn in their papers alphabetically. If that's you, that's fine. I've seen people put highlighters by the basket and have them highlight the names so they get their names on it. I've seen people digitally have folders for each content, each grade, whatever, and kids turn it into that folder. However, that, like your classroom, well, Google Classroom is already in a folder, depending on how you set it up, I guess.
Same
Different
with
things.
Canvas.
Canvas. Yeah.
Tiffany forgets that there's a secondary world out there sometimes.
No, I just get the word canvas and Canva mixed up because I use Canva a lot. Okay. But I
Wait,
know.
before we go on to the
No,
next thing though,
yeah.
another big one is like when we come into class or when we are getting ready to leave class. If we don't think about telling the kids the procedure for either of those things, you can have chaos in the matter of seconds.
Because you're standing there watching the last kids come in from the hall and the kids in the room are now swinging off the lights. The best thing that I ever saw, and I don't remember I can never remember, I've seen so many things now, webinars, but the best thing I saw one time it was brilliant, is to tell them something to think about as they go in. So you can tell them as you go in, I want to make sure you have this, this, and this have a seat. But remember, even older kids might not have the working memory to remember 3 things. So you might have a PowerPoint up or a poster up that whatever you do that says what they always need at their desk for those kids. Plus from the door to the table, I'd forget. I already forgot what I was talking about. But no, I'm kidding. But then the other thing is that I've seen people do is not only that, but I've seen people give them something to talk about. So for instance, in the younger grades, as you're going to your table, as you're going to the carpet, I want you to whisper or count by tens. So they're all doing that. I've seen older say, hey, we're going to be talking at this, this, and this. I want you to think of 3 things that we talked about yesterday, or be ready to, oh, they have a number lineup. Be ready to put this number on the number line, and their fractions numbers. And as they go in, they put that and they sit down and they're looking at other people. That could be digital or up there as well. So when they come in the room, and then the last thing I think is it's really about entering and leaving at the end of the day. Like that's chaos sometimes. And you're like, what is going on? Because you don't have a procedure of what every day is. How do we clean up? How do they pick up? And how do they be in the hall and in the, and that's high school. And I mean, that's all of it for
Getting ready,
sure.
what-
Entering the room, leaving the room,
Yep.
and then everything in between,
Yep.
millions of things. There's nothing that says you can't have a procedure. You don't have to have them all laid out the first week. You can even talk to kids. So that's the last thing I was going to say is another strategy is generating rules and procedures with kids. That develops relationships. Remember last time we were talking about that? We were talking about ways we can develop that. There are some that I have to have as a teacher, otherwise it will make me crazy. But then there's other things like you can ask the kids, what will help you work in this environment? I've had kids say, I need the lights off. Well, not every kid needs a light off. So is there a way that I can have some of them off and those kids can sit here? And I don't know, but there are different things that different kids need. And so when they have a little bit of input or perceived choice, if you've offered 2, then there's that. And you can then add that in. If you don't have to make that your whole class period, there can be some, okay, we've named all these things. Your deal tonight is I want you to go in and digitally vote. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. And then tomorrow we'll pull this together. Then the last thing I want to say, well, it won't be the last, we know that, that I'm going to say, and the other strategy that we pulled out of this one was explaining the rules and procedures. And what we find is we have to remember that even in 1 year, a student at every level has more than just one teacher. And those teachers have different expectations, different rules in their classroom. And that's okay. We are not advocating that they're all the same rules. Now we have streamlined some things of pause, and there are hallway, there's whatever your school does. That's okay. But we have to teach kids what that expectation is. We can't just assume if we say, go swing correctly on the swing. They don't know what that is. We have to say, here's what it looks like. This is what we're going to do. Same thing. We're going to pass our papers to the front. You can't just say, pass your papers to the front and assume a kid will naturally just go, here you go. It doesn't happen. Correct. Then you got paper cuts in the eye. So we teach that every year, and it just takes a second. And I've seen people do games. Okay, I'm going to time you, see how quick you can do it. You can earn that many seconds extra at recess or whatever, or I'm going to let you leave 5 minutes early. Whatever it is. So we have to teach that. And there is a book that has, that we'll link in there, that has, all kinds of ideas for procedures. And then it also has the actual teach to lesson. And so the procedure for teaching a teach to is you tell them what it is, you describe it, you show them what you want them to do. And I would suggest this, you might be an example of what not to do. Don't ever, what I have heard, let the kids do what not to do. You want kids always to practice the what to do, no matter what level of kid you teach. So you would be the model of what not to do. And they would say no. And I'd say, can you please show me the correct way to do this? Now, in the younger grades, you can be as silly as you want. In the older grades, I still believe you have to do this too, in the mature manner, however you do that.
A great place to bring humor in is when you
Yes.
are modeling the wrong way.
Yeah. Correct. They get a kick out of that. And I do believe that I would appreciate that sometimes too in some of our things that we do. It's like, how do you want me to do this? I might always have lots of questions. Okay. But that's because I want to know. I need to know how you want me to do this. Okay.
Are you sure that was your last thing?
Well, until you start talking.
Okay. So the next strategy, I'm still trying to make sure I'm using the right word for
The
this.
element.
The next, see, I already messed it
I
up.
helped you.
The
That's why we're
next
together.
element that we are going to talk about is demonstrating withitness. And what that simply means is being alert. Be aware of what is happening. So try to have your eyes and ears everywhere, you know, the mom eyes in the back of your head. So, couple of the strategies
that we pulled out.
the
because-
strategies that we pulled out. Okay. So I'm going to start with being proactive. So when I say be proactive, that's just like we're like the whole overarching withitness. We are just aware of things that might have happened before that student is in the seat in your classroom.
Yeah.
So there could be anything, try to be as aware as possible. Like we can't possibly know that there was a fight on the bus when they walk into our classroom. We might not know that, right?
Especially
That morning.
yeah.
So we might not know those kinds of things, but we can be aware of, oh, I know that this child is really struggling in this area, or we had a bad basketball game, or whatever.
Or it comes with when you've developed relationships
Yep.
with kids and you know them, you can see them coming and you see something's on their face.
Yep.
You don't know what happened, but their fists are balled up or they're bouncing off the walls. You know something that I may need to ask them something.
So that just brings our radar up, like, okay, I need to keep my eye on this kid, and I might need to pull them aside for a second and just ask, everything okay? Going all right, so that we can hopefully head off any big blow-ups that could happen, positive or negative for that.
Now I know why you ask me some
So-
questions sometimes when I walk in.
Another thing about being proactive is having some kind of signal, and we kind of chuckled about this one.
We did.
When we were talking about it. Having some kind of signal to let students know, oh, you're misbehaving without interrupting your classroom. So that's the whole idea. Without interrupting your lesson, you
Yeah.
need to have some kind of cue that might cue the student that, hey, you're stepping out of line. You're not following. Some of our
And we were
rules.
talking about, we were laughing because these aren't the you're stepping out of line like this kid just threw a chair
Right.
across the classroom. These are the proactive things of their whispering to a friend and what might be your cue that doesn't disrupt your lesson. Susie, I need you to have your eyes on me, disrupts your lesson because now everybody's looking at Susie and not you.
And that is a very public thing to say. We want to try the non-public ones first before we escalate to that step, which
Otherwise-
sometimes we need to. But
Yeah.
it's all right.
But you don't want to be the escalator first.
Correct. Oh, I said it right.
We were practicing.
Okay. So this is where we were kind of talking about the look. I've heard of the mom look. Have you heard of the teacher look?
I have. Who does the eyebrow? I have practiced for years.
I can't. Did you? Well, you got it.
Except I look, I can't do it.
You're-
I had teachers that gave me, the eyebrow and I say me, I mean me, they gave me the eyebrow and I knew, all right.
I can't do the eyebrow either, but I know that I have a look. I know that I've used it with my children. I don't know if I've ever used it in the classroom, but
I used it at a meeting the other day. I didn't realize I had it because the teacher backed up like, I'm sorry. Ask Danielle. We're laughing about it now, so I can say her name. Ask Danielle about my look. I didn't realize I had it.
yeah,
I
she-
do.
She does have a look. But that is a signal that you could give
Yeah.
a student that would, and they're going to hopefully think about what they're doing and stop doing what they're doing.
I think what's powerful about that too, as I was thinking about this the other night, maybe we talked about it too. The other thing that's powerful about the look is you may not necessarily follow through with anything like that's that unknown, because the unknown, if you're a parent and as a teacher, if you've had that before, the unknown is a very big motivator.
Yep.
So you don't always have to have a consequence. If I give you the look, you're going to spend 5 minutes
Right.
inside. And they're like, I don't care. I want to be inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, the
There is that.
unknown is powerful.
So that leads me to, if the look doesn't work, then we do proximity, which falls under the strategy of occupying the whole room,
Oh, the room, not the space.
not the space.
Not the eyelashes.
So
Okay.
the whole room, physically and visually. So not only are you looking around, being aware of what's happening in every corner of your room, but you're also going to be in proximity of that behavior that is happening that you're not wanting to have. So again, that is not drawing attention to that kid. The kids, yes, their eyes might be following you as you're teaching, but you are standing there, hopefully, because the kids are now looking in that direction. Hopefully that behavior will stop without you having to publicly say, stop talking, or any of
And
those
we,
things.
they know,
They know.
but we don't, but when they know, you still don't have to stop your lesson. And if it's your norm to move around the room, that's your norm and they know, oh, okay. And everybody else knows that you're coming to them if they're not present in the lesson.
So I think those were the big things. Oh,
Mhm.
we talked a little bit about room arrangement.
Oh, that is a big
So
deal.
when you have to move around your room, you need to make sure that you can move around your room. So if you have, let's say you have desks and they're arranged in groups. Groups are great, but you also need to be able to move from one area to another area.
Oh, it makes me think of our old computer lab at
Yes.
East down there.
That was
And
terrible.
they had to set it up because of the cords and I couldn't get to that back row. I
Yep.
couldn't even see the screens, or if I was in the back so I could see the screens, I couldn't get to the front. And that's like, look, oh, that was, I
So
didn't
just,
like that.
so when you're setting up your classroom, or even if it's already set up, doesn't have to stay that way. We tease that we change our rooms like every other day, sometimes in the elementary world. I don't know about secondary, but just pay attention. If you're finding it hard to get to that corner of the room, then think about what you can scoot or move
Mhm.
to
But
be able
it's-
to move around.
Right. And it's also, we also talked about, don't forget, it's not only that, because I know even in high school, you're conferencing with one student. You're not moving around the room at that point when you're conferencing or with a group of students. So I learned the hard way in kindergarten. I had the beautiful arrangement and I had a bookshelf and I had the private little quiet library. And so then when I was sitting, I could not see those kids. I learned right away that bookshelf had to go against the wall, because when Jen said physically or visually,
Yeah.
it's so you can give the look, but it's so you can monitor their safety as well as if they're
Yeah.
on task.
For sure. So thinking about noticing potential problems. So let's say you're writing something on the board and your back is to most of the class, which don't do that. Don't put your back, but sometimes.
Well, we
you
have to.
Sometimes you have to. So you hear giggling and whispering and talking. So
Taco on your clothes.
that's another story. So they might be giggling because you have food stuck to your clothes.
Maybe
That
it's
may
your
have
story.
happened.
Who knows?
But so you don't want to like completely interrupt your teaching, but it's obviously a behavior that could very easily escalate and get out of hand. So you have to decide, is that, and I liked the terms that we used to teach in a classroom management training.
Uh-huh.
Is it a headache or is it a brain tumor?
And headaches and brain tumors are different for different people, and that's okay.
Yes, it is okay that
Okay.
there's not one steadfast rule, because remember, rules don't apply to me.
And what gives me a headache does not annoy her
Right.
at all. So
Right. So you have to decide in that moment, like, is this something that I can continue doing what I'm doing, or do I need to intervene in a different way? So you could just turn around and give a look, and hopefully that nips it. But when you're hearing that, and it could escalate very fast, so you have to be thinking on your toes.
you know what I was just thinking just now? So we talk about the graduated steps,
Mhm.
right? So you could give the look, that may take care of it. It hasn't escalated to me saying, get out or
Yeah.
whatever, but it might escalate to say, it's okay, we'll talk later. That Jim Fay thing. And sometimes when you say, we'll talk later, they're like, "Ugh." And then they stew about it and you go on with your
Yeah.
lesson. Sometimes that's enough for some kids too, before you have to jump to the next thing.
Yes,
I mean, there are brain tumor things to deal with right then and there for sure.
there definitely are. So
Yeah.
you just kind of have to decide that.
Yeah.
So, that was the last thing, is kind of thinking about that graduated action. So you don't always just jump from I'm teaching to, oh, get out of the classroom, right? You got to move through those layers or levels of withitness.
And do be careful of that nuclear get out, because now you don't have any control.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Is that
So
it?
I think that's it. I think we
Oh.
covered all that we were going to talk about. I don't know how long this has been, but
That's okay. Thanks if you've stayed with us to the end, we appreciate it. So, and
Yep.
thanks for listening to Pivot, Inspire, and Elevate with Tiffany and
Jennifer.
so in this session, we talked about, I'm doing Jennifer's spot. It says Jennifer right there. I'm gonna back
I'm
up
just-
and let her do
I'm
it.
gonna let her continue because she apparently was excited to do it, but
I'm not gonna, now I'm gonna stop.
all right. So we talked about the elements within the design area, implementing rules and procedures. The strategies we discussed were generating, explaining, and reviewing rules and expectations. We also talked about the strategies around demonstrating withitness.
Which can be learned.
Yes.
It's not always
Very-
natural. That's why we're talking about these.
Yep.
These can be practiced and learned. So if you, now my turn.
Now it really is her turn, but wait, I'm going to say the first sentence because she stole my first.
I was.
sentence. It's true. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a comment and share with others.
Okay, so here's what we found out though.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to use views and comments this year instead of asking people to fill out a feedback form. And what we found out, we're always finding out new things. So we pretend like we know everything. Remember, we don't. We found out that in order to record the view,
Yep.
even if you've watched it, you have to be logged into YouTube. So whether that's through your school account or through a personal account,
Yep.
it doesn't matter. If you're not logged into YouTube, it doesn't count as a view for us.
Right.
And you can't comment.
And you can't subscribe and get notifications if you're not.
Correct. So we would like you to please help us monitor that so we know if this is helpful to people.
Yep.
So log in as you view, leave us a comment, and we're okay. We're tough. We won't cry on camera. We will cry outside of that. Jen doesn't
Some of
cry,
us
but
will cry outside. Not really.
Uh,
She won't cry.
yes, I will. But it's okay. I'm a learner. So I cry as I'm learning. It's that TikTok. Okay. So she's pointing to where I need to say. So don't forget to log in. Also hit the bell so that you know when new episodes are released. And we talked about a couple resources we'd share. So you can go over to the Tech Lounge and check out bit.ly/the Tech Lounge to check out the other resources. And we are happy and excited to see you for episode 3 outside of our comfort zone. Okay. And in
All right.
between that time, remember, never stop growing, never stop learning, and never stop sharing. I can't find the stop.